Hello and a very warm welcome to 3 myths that product managers believe, which keep them from making money with their products and what you can do about it. My name is Matthias Bohlen and I'm an expert for effective product development, and I say welcome to this video. Are you a product manager or a head of research and development? And do you know these symptoms? Developers cost a lot of money and take too much time. Development needs high investment and you have to wait a long time until you get a return. Or no one wants to buy what you have developed. These are very common symptoms today, and rumors spread around it. The myths behind these symptoms are told over and over again in the industry, but they don't become any more true by telling them. And they make me, as a coach for effective product development, lose my mind, because I see my clients having difficulties with that. So I will destroy these myths. I decided to do that one after the other, and I will show you the root cause behind each symptom that's disturbing you. I came up with charts of the top 3 of the worst myths about product development in our industry, and I will now destroy each one of them. So enjoy the top 3 places in the charts. Let's start with place number 3 in the charts. Costs for development are labor costs. This is the belief behind the symptom developers are expensive. People believe that developers are expensive and that costs arise because developers are working. In India, the wages are only a fourth of what they are in Western countries. So one of the most common ideas is, let's outsource to India, right? Do you also believe in this myth, cost for development is labor cost? Then I've got news for you. The time for work is not the problem. You will see this easily if you ask yourself, how long does it take in our company until a new idea turns into a product feature and is really usable by a customer? Does it take weeks or months or years? And how big is the portion of real working time? So the percentage of real working time in this total time. It's amazing to see. Research has shown, and I have seen it happen in projects, that typically the amount of working time is only 10% of the total time. So if you watch an idea transform itself into a feature, only 10% of the time do people really work on it. 40% would already be a lot. So a new idea spends 60 to 90% of the time waiting for the next step. Some examples for that. A product idea waits to become a requirement. Requirements are waiting to become solution designs. A solution design is waiting to become realized or implemented. Realized solutions are waiting to be tested, and tested products are waiting to be sold to the customer. So there's a lot of waiting time in the process. And the question is, when 60% to 90% of total development time are spent waiting for the next step, how much sense does it make to optimize the cost for the remaining 10 to 40%? Doesn't make much sense, right? The consequence is that outsourcing to India, to Romania, or to Mars saves you $0. The root cause is that partial results spend time waiting on a big hard disk or on a desktop, and communication and quality problems, etc., cause cost of delay. Cost of delay, what is it? It's the revenue that you cannot make because the product arrives too late. Some examples. Think of the new PlayStation 4 that was released in November 2013. It sold 1 million pieces on a single day in USA and Canada. On the first day alone, 1 million pieces. Now, how many pieces do you think Sony would have sold if the PS4 had arrived after Christmas? After the whole Christmas thing was over? That's only 6 weeks later, right? So how much is the cost of delay of this 6 weeks? How many wages would Sony have needed to save to compensate this cost? Developer wages, for example. You can't compare that. It's incomparable. 1 million pieces, the cost for a loss in revenue, it's much more than the wages that could have been saved by outsourcing developers. Another example, a participant in my training told me he was from a company who makes cranes, heavyweight cranes. They can lift 100 tons, for example. They are used for unloading ships. And he said they experience a cost of delay of about 1 million euro per week. He's in charge of the control software. He's a team lead in the control software development department. And he says if they come late with the control software for one of those heavy cranes, it costs them a juicy 1 million in cash. So what do you think is their priority? Outsourcing? Probably not. Another example. Siemens in Germany has a contract with Deutsche Bahn, and they should have delivered 16 new intercity express trains in 2011. 16 new trains. At the beginning of 2013, these trains were still not delivered. The Frankfurt newspaper wrote a big article about that, so you can read that. The reason was that the ICEs failed the brake test because the signal from the moment the driver pressed the button until the brakes really pulled took the time it took was too long. It was some milliseconds, but milliseconds for a high speed train really mean a thing, right? So Siemens comforted Deutsche Bahn in promising to deliver 1 extra ICE train free of charge. Can you imagine a whole train free of charge? What that costs? Not only this, the next quarter Siemens put away 115 million additional euros to be prepared for even more delay. So we're talking big numbers here, right? So calculate the labor costs. For example, if you have labor costs of 1 million per year and you outsource half of the work, more is not usually not realistic in development organizations. And let's say this outsourcing saves you 75% of this half of the work. That makes 375,000 that you save. Ain't that cool? Now, it turns out it's quite uncool because these savings that you make will cause delay. You will have communication problems, cultural problems, misunderstandings, quality problems, etc. I've seen it happen over and over again with my clients when they outsource to foreign countries. So if your cost of delay is 1.5 million per week, as in the Siemens train example, then 1 week of delay is sufficient to lose 4 times the money saved. Imagine that. So how do you get out of this? What's the remedy? First, change your perspective. Look at what the work does, not at what your people do. When you look at people's wages, it's one way to look at the people. Look at the work products instead. What do they do? Does the work proceed? Are the results moving smoothly through the development process? Or are they sleeping on a desktop or on a hard disk? If you're a sports guy, you could say, look at the baton, not at the runner. And try to avoid queues of unfinished work between people or between teams. For example, develop only as much as you can test. If testing is blocked, stop developing. Test only as much as you can deliver. If you can't deliver, stop testing. It doesn't make sense to create more intermediate products that spend their time in queues. Deliver only as much as you can sell. If you can't sell, don't deliver. Why should you? Etc., etc. So avoid queues of unfinished work wherever you can. And to stop these queues from growing, you can use smart methods like Kanban, for example. The Kanban method cuts those queues quite quickly. Kanban systems work very quickly. Allow the teams to answer no when they are asked to accept new work done in parallel to what they are doing now. And this work will produce results which will land in another queue anyway. So every time a team is asked to do additional work and they know that the next team can't take it, this team will say no. Just a moment. We will tackle that work later. I can show you how a team working under high load needs to say no in only 1% of the cases in order to save 30% of total time, because most of it is queue time. And I can show you how few new team members you need to hire and where in the process to cut the queues in half and save almost half of the total time. Because adding new team members will easily cut the queues if the team is working under high load. And I can show you how you can spread expert knowledge in your company to avoid queues on the expert's desk. Because one of the top reasons for queues is that only one person can do something. He or she is the expert for that. So he or she is overloaded and creates a queue on his or her desk. But just a minute. First of all, let's have a look at the top other two myths in the charts. I'm doing that in the next video. I'll destroy a myth about investment in product development. This video was about cost, so the next video is about investment. Stay tuned, you will like it. That was Matthias Bohlen, expert for effective product development.